theyeshiva.net.
One of the challenges is that a lot of boys and girls growing up in yeshiva or school as kids, they didn't understand what was happening, and when they asked one question or two questions, they were shut down in one way or another, or maybe they thought they would be shut down. Therefore, when they're adults, they don't know that it's not supposed to be that way. You're supposed to understand everything, and you could understand. Huh? Okay. A patch also was a way to shut down people. So I don't want you to carry that into this shir, please. A new reality, panam chadashos. If somebody doesn't understand, ask. It's fine. I don't mind explaining something 5 times, 6 times, 10 times. I'm fine, as long as at the end you'll understand it. Okay. We explored in last year the very famous and big machlokas. I say it's famous even though for many of us the details are new. A very big argument about the definition of shkia, definition of sunset. By the way, you still have your Masechta Shabbos copies? If you still have it? If you have it, just take it out. And the key point of the argument was as follows: what is called shkia? What is called sunset? The way the argument comes about is, as I told you, there's an argument, there's a major contradiction between two brises. In Meseches Pesachim, Daf Tzadik Dala, this Masechta, Rabbi Yehuda says, the Tana Rabbi Yehuda says, that from sunset till nightfall, from when the sun sets till when the stars emerge, what's called Seisak Echavim, when the stars come out, when the stars appear in the heavens, in the skies, is a shear of Dalad Milin, of 4 kilometers, approximately 4 kilometers, which, as we said, is approximately, if you take a meal as 18 minutes, although many say it's 22 and a half, many say it's 24, would be 72 minutes from Shkia till Tzeisak Echavim. Yeah. If you want to say that it's 24 minutes a meal, so then it would be 2 million is 48, it would be 2 times 48 would be 96 minutes. Fine, great. It should be very clear. The only problem is that in Maseches Shabbos, Daf Lamed Daled and Daf Lamed Hey, there's a huge sugya about Shkia and Bein Hashmashos, and Rabbi Yehuda, the same person, says that Shkia, Bein Hashmashos, which is called twilight, begins after Shkia, right by sunset, and it continues till Tzeisak Echavim. And he gives the shear for it. And the shear for it is, there's 2 opinions. One opinion is 2/3 of a mil. One opinion is 3/4 of a mil. Yeah. The shit of Rabbi, 3/4 of a mil, which lahalacha we embrace Rabbi Yehuda, l'chumra, and the shit of Rabbi, which 3/4 of a mil would be 13 and a half minutes, or even if a mil is 24 minutes, it's going to be 6, 12, 18, it'll be 18 minutes. We all understand that there's a huge difference between 18 minutes or 13 and a half minutes and 72 minutes. This is like a huge contradiction. So in one place he says from Shkia till Tzeisak Echavim is 72 minutes. In Masechta Shabbos he says from Shkia till Tzeisak Echavim, which is also a name for Bein Hashmashos, the twilight between sunset and nightfall. Tzeisak Echavim, which is mamish night, for sure night, is basically 18 minutes or 13 and a half minutes. Again, depends how you define a mil. That's why I alternate, which is a big argument in and of itself. If it's 18 minutes, 22 and a half minutes, or 24 minutes. Now this is like a huge contradiction. It's hard to get around it. If it's 2-minute question, 5 minutes, new mela, you say. But here it's like a huge gap that we have. So how do you deal with this? So Rabbeinu Tam had his big chiddush. This is a chiddush of Rabbeinu Tam in Tosfos in Pesachim and in Shabbos, which we learned inside. And Rabbeinu Tam says that there is a major confusion because Shkia does not mean the same thing in every place. It means sunset, but it doesn't mean the same thing. Masechta Shabbos is Shkia, and Masechta Pesachim Shkia are 2 different Shkias. And this is the chiddush of Rabbeinu Tam, that when you speak about Shkia and Halacha, we're not always talking about the same term. And the key point of Rabbeinu Tam was, Shkia A is when the ball of the sun sets, which means when the actual sun, the sun itself, sets over the horizon. That's Shkia 1. Shkia 2, but there's still a lot of light. There's still light. We still can experience and appreciate and observe what we call the rays of the sun or the light of the sun, and therefore our part of the planet during that time is still pretty bright and luminescent, even if it's, of course, the light is diminished. Obviously, the sun has set. But then there's a second Shkia. That's the real Shkia. Not only the beginning of the ball setting, but the beginning of the light setting. In other words, the light is already disappearing as well. Not only the sun disappears from our horizon, but the light disappears from our horizon, and the beginning of that Shkia, that's the real halachic Shkia. In Masechta Pesachim, I don't want to call it the fake Shkia, but in Masechta Pesachim we're talking about the first Shkia. From the first Shkia till Tzeisak Echavim is 72 minutes. From the sun actually setting until what we call complete lightfall is 72 minutes, or 96 minutes. In Maseches Shabbos, when we say from Shkia till Tzeisak Echavim is 18 minutes, Ben Hashmoshes, you know when that Shkia starts? That Shkia starts an hour after the first Shkia. After the first Shkia, when the sun sets, it's still light for a long time. That's day. That's not night. That's not Ben Hashmoshes. That's fully day. Even though the sun set. There's no stars out. It's day. It's daytime. It's mamish yom. Even though it's called Shkia in Pesachim because the sun actually set. But halachically, it's not Ben Hashmoshes. It's not night. It's fully day.
So what's the difference?
The difference is if you could do malacha for a whole hour Friday evening. What do you mean? What's the difference? Or Motzai Shabbos, you have to wait much longer.
Which one do we hold?
Which one do we hold? That itself is an argument. That itself is an argument. That's why the Shkia of Rabbeinu Tam is a separate Shkia. It's a completely.
What is the guy?
Huh?
What's the guy?
Yeah, it's the Sugya Masechta Pesachim. He wants to talk about how the day works. In fact, the Sugya Pesachim is not talking about the halachas of Shkia. It comes in incidentally because of a different topic. It's actually talking about Pesach Sheni, Tomim, and we're going to get to it. It's Hashem when we get to Dav Tzadik Dalet.
Really? Nobody argues
in a few weeks.
Nobody argues when the Shkia starts.
Depends which Shkia.
Nobody argues when the Shkia starts.
Right.
The sun sets. When
Right. The sun sets, the sun sets. The argument is what's the significance of that in halacha? So Rabbi Yehuda, Tam says that according to Rabbi Yehuda, that stays day. When does Ben Hashmoshes begin? Ben Hashmoshes begins 3/4 of a mil. 3/4 of a mil before Tzeisak Echavim, meaning you go 4 mil, right? And deduct go back 3/4 of 1 mil. In other words, after 3 mil and a quarter, that's when your Ben Hashmoshes will begin. That means 58 and a half minutes or 60 minutes, right? If it's 72 minutes, so what would be 3/4 of that? Huh?
According to Rabbi Chaim, the first year doesn't have the right Shmoshes.
No.
Why not? It happens. We know exactly when it happens.
But it's day. I don't have a problem. It's day. It's light outside. We're good. The onset of Ben Hashmoshes happens when he says Ben Hashmoshes is 3/4 of a mil, which we explained to be 13 and a half minutes, right? Or
2/3 of a mil. 2/3 of a mil.
2/3 is 1 shitta or 3/4 of a mil. La'alacha we take on 3/4 of a mil. But you can also go with 2/3 of a mil. The point is it's much, much later. So Ben Hashmoshes will begin when? 13 and a half minutes before 72 minutes. So when is that going to be? 58 and a half minutes after sunset is full day. You could do everything like day. And on the other hand, with Tzai Shabbos, it's fully Shabbos. 58 and a half minutes after. Fully Shabbos, no question. After 58 and a half minutes is Suffolk Yom, Suffolk Laila. Now it's doubt, Ben Hashmoshes. It's now getting much, much darker already, right? It's still not Tzeisak Echavim yet, fully. We're not sure that it's Tzeisak Echavim, but it's getting much darker because basically what happened, we're waiting now. This is the time of the Shkia of the second Shkia. The Shkia of the light, around 58 and a half minutes or 60 minutes. It's the second Shkia. And from that second Shkia, you have now a Ben Hashmoshes between that and Tzeisak Echavim. Which Tzeisak Echavim is going to be basically the 72 minutes or the 96 minutes. That's the Ben Hashmoshes. That was Rabbeinu Tam's big chiddush in Ishmael. And as he said, the fascinating thing is that the Shulchan Aruch, Hilchos Shabbos, Reish Samach Aleph, paskins like Rabbeinu Tam. However, most of the Rishonim, or I should say most of the Rishonim disagreed with Rabbeinu Tam. They held that's not the case, and this is known as Shittas HaGa'onim. And the reason is because the argument is from already, the other opinion dates back before Rabbeinu Tam. Rev Shrei Regon and his son Rev Haigon and many other Rishonim disagreed with this completely. They felt that what Rabbi Yehuda meant was Shkia is the first Shkia when the sun sets. How are you going to explain in Masechta Pesachim that it's 4 mil when he says there that Ben Hashmashos is only 3/4 of a mil? So one of the main interpretations for this, one of the main answers for this is, which the Vilna Gaon gives in his Biur Hagra in Shulchan Aruch, Hilchos Shabbos, where he argues with the Mechaber and he says it's not the right shitta to embrace. And the same answer by the Baal HaTanya in his Siddur, not in his Shulchan Aruch. In Shulchan Aruch, he embraces the view of Shulchan Aruch because that's what he usually did in Shulchan Aruch. He followed the Shulchan Aruch. He just explained it more with reasons. But in the Siddur, he heavily argued with this shitta and felt that it was not the shitta to accept, and nobody should be lenient to light candles Friday evening late. They should do it before the first Shkia. And the reason was because the Masechta Pesachim they both interpret to mean Tzeis HaKechavim there doesn't mean when 3 stars comes out. It means when all the stars come out. Tzeis Kol HaKechavim. And that's true. 72 minutes or 96 minutes after the first Shkia, it's pretty dark. I'm not going to say it's pitch dark, but it's pretty dark. And you could see most of the stars, even the small stars.
Somebody wanted to feed the Rav, the Gemarah Rav.
Yeah.
That doesn't know about the Siddur, he goes and he looks at the Gemarah Rav.
If somebody only learns Shulchan Aruch Harav, like the regular Shulchan Aruch, would follow Rabbeinu Tam Shitta, yeah. Bein Hashmasha starts much later, and for a very significant time after Shkia is fully day, and Bein Hashmasha starts much later. And remember, even Bein Hashmasha is a suffix. Bein Hashmasha is a suffix, as Tosfos explained to us here in Pesachim and in Shabbos and in Pesachim, because our Tzeis HaKechavim is also not so simple. What's called 3 middle stars, 3 intermediary stars, not big, because big ones you could see sometimes earlier in the afternoon, right? And not tiny ones, what appears tiny, because that you won't even see then, because they're tiny. You'll only see later when it's really dark. So the weather will, the darkness will allow the tiny lights to shine brightly, just like a little candle. You know, you won't shaga batira my honey you won't see in the middle of the day. But the question is, what does that exactly mean? And that's why there's a concept of Bein Hashmashas. Now you'll ask, why is it that according to the regular Shittas HaGa'onim, right after 18 minutes after Shkia, we should have night. Nobody waits 18 minutes after Shkia, right? There's a lot of shiurim, but nobody says 18 minutes or 13 and a half minutes. Amachaya right after Shkia. And of course, here we have to understand, I'm not going to get into this because this is really a whole sugya b'fnei atzman. It's not ultimately our main discussion, but this really has to do with where you live in the world. Meaning, in the horizon of Bavel and Eretz Yisrael, on a day when 6 o'clock was sunrise and 6 o'clock was sunset, what's called the equinox, those equal days when day and night are identical, in Eretz Yisrael or Bavel, similarly, over there, Rabbi Yehuda spoke from that perspective, and over there you could see 3 stars coming out, which he estimated not as the big ones, not as the small ones, by Tzeis HaKechavim, and just he made it a little earlier because of Bein Hashmashas. That's true. The moment you go up north, more north, like the Jews in later generations who moved to Eastern Europe, you're dealing with Russia, Poland, Lithuania, and even Germany and France, Rabbeinu Tam who lived in France, and you're going up more north, everything changes. Which is why in Eretz Yisrael, the Shittas HaGa'onim was always accepted, not Rabbeinu Tam. Adayai. In Eretz Yisrael, Shittas HaGa'onim was accepted. Completely not like Shulchan Aruch. Bein Hashmasha starts right after Shkia, and Tzeis HaKechavim is soon after. It also worked for them, because over there the stars come out much earlier. We're up north, it takes much more time. And that's why the Mishnah Brura explains this at length. The Mishnah Brura, who's the Pirush on Shulchan Aruch, of course brings the Shulchan Aruch, but then he says, so many Poskim don't agree, and therefore it's not so simple to follow Rabbeinu Tam, and he brings the Vilna Gaon and all that whole arichas. And he says that even according to the first Shitta, not Rabbeinu Tam, Right? We don't wait anymore just 13 and a half minutes or 18 minutes. We follow Rabbi Yehuda, and then after that we add 2 minutes for Rabbi Yosef's Shitta ben Hashmashas, and then based on where you live in the world, looking at the horizon and how long it takes for the stars to come out, they extended more time until they were sure that 3 stars came out. 3 stars came out, which they estimated were Kechavim Beinanim, but they weren't sure if they were Kechavim Beinanim, so they wanted to make sure that it's even the Ktanim come out, so it's for sure night, and that's why it was extended, even according to the first Shitta. You don't just do Tzesek Kechavim 13 minutes after Shkia, it is longer.
So the Shittas are going on how long after the Shkia is Matzah Shabbos?
How long after the Shkia Matzah Shabbos? So again, in the classic ideal situation, you're dealing with approximately 18 minutes, right? But for that you have to be in a particular. Remember, Shkia is always relative to where the person is. In Japan, Shkia is at one point, and in Los Angeles it's another time. In Yerushalayim it's another time. In New York it's another time. So it's not about an objective experience. So therefore, you have to see what's going on by you. That's why we don't just say 18 minutes after Shabbos is Matzah Shabbos.
The Shkia is in the place that you are. How many minutes after that?
So Rabbi Yehuda said that it's 3/4 of a mil, right? 3/4 of a mil, which would mean 13 and a half minutes or 18 minutes. But we don't say, okay, so that's the halacha. Because Rabbi Yehuda was talking about in his place, from his estimation, from his perspective, at the particular time of the year. And because of that, there's such a shakla b'tarya, you have to... In Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, it's like a much shorter. Over there, they're the most lenient over there. And over here, they're much more stringent. And in Eastern Europe, they're also much more stringent.
You this place 13 and a half minutes after Shkia, you do Malachim.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why does the Moshe Hashanah hold it 15 minutes over in America? 15 minutes.
Yeah. Fine.
It's a Ben Tam?
No, it's not Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam you have to wait much later. It's Shittas HaGa'ainim. But even Shittas HaGa'ainim...
15 minutes.
Yes. Even Shittas HaGa'ainim, you can't do Malacha. In many ways, it's also more stringent. Because Friday, you have to stop doing Malacha right by sunset. You understand? Sunset is already Ben Hashmashas.
Why Yerushalayim earlier they do it?
But it push it quicker. That's Rabbi
No,
Yehuda.
it's earlier than normal even Yerushalayim. It's a half hour I think before.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
They just add a few minutes, huh?
That's a different
Oh, that's something else, yeah.
40 minutes.
There's a shitta of one of the Rishonim, the Yireim, that Ben Hashmashas starts approximately 18-20 minutes before Shkia. That's why the concept of 18 minutes, you light candles 18 minutes before Shkia, right? One of the ideas is, because there's one shitta of Rishonim, the Shittas HaYireim, Rebbe Lezer of Mitz, who holds that Ben Hashmashas starts before Shkia. That's how he understood it. Because Ben Hashmashas starts before Shkia, so already you have to take in Shabbos before Shkia, approximately 18-20 minutes.
That's 40,
Yeah.
40, right?
Yeah. Some add a little more. It's approximately that area. Most of the Rishonim don't agree with this. That's why we stop by Shkia. But everybody says that it's good to stop before Shkia because of this. Lichtzenden, most places they do 18 minutes before, some even earlier.
So whose shit is the 60 minutes after Shkia? We hear that most of the...
That's all in Shittas HaGoinim. It's all in Shittas HaGoinim, just extending how long it takes to get from Shkia to Tzesek Kechavim. To Tzesek Kechavim Vadai. Remember, we're looking for Tzesek Kechavim Vadai to make it Matzah Shabbos. Tzesek Kechavim Safek, right, is earlier. Tzesek Kechavim Safek is maybe 13 and a half minutes later. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said. Yeah? According to Tosfos, Tzesek Kechavim Safek is even a second after Shkia. That's why it's Ben Hashmashas. That's why it's Ben Hashmashas. So remember, Tzesek Kechavim Safek is very, very early. But what's exactly those Kechavim Beinanim? I go out after sunset, I see stars. Are those the Kechavim Beinanim? Maybe that's why it's Ben Hashmashas. That's why we don't call it for short day. It may be Safek Laila, right? We don't call it for short day. Friday after Shkia, I have to stop working because it may be Tzesek Kechavim. It may not be, but it may be. 13 and a half minutes later, 18 minutes later, or 20 minutes later, Rabbi Yehuda says it's for short Tzesek Kechavim. You go out, is it our Tzesek Kechavim? They weren't sure. Maybe it's Tzesek Kechavim. So they wanted to make sure that we have Tzesek Kechavim. But how do you make sure? So they wait till the 3 small stars come out. Because if the 3 small stars come out, then you know it's Vadai Laila.
Do we have names for those stars?
Again, so that you understand what I'm saying? It's all based on doubt. In other words, we don't know. We want to be certain that Shabbos ended. How can we be certain that Shabbos ended? When Shabbos begins, We want to be certain that Shabbos didn't begin. So we go the earliest possible. So we go till sunset or even before sunset, because then we know it's not Tzeitzek Chavim, right? Again, there's one shitta that there's a suffix even before Shkia. The shitta Sayyirayim. After Shabbos, it's the other way around. We want to be certain. We're not talking Rabbeinu Tam now. We're talking not Rabbeinu Tam. We're talking the classic shitta Sagoyim. Right after Shkia is Bein Hashmash. Rabbeinu Tam doesn't have a problem with right after Shkia. Right after Shkia by him is day. You got a long time till you're Bein Hashmashas. But according to shitta Sagoyim, right after Shkia is Bein Hashmashas. You want to make sure it's fully night. For that, you need Tzeitzek Chavim, not Bein Hashmashas. Tzeitzek Chavim means you have 3 stars coming out, 3 intermediary stars. Not 3 small stars, because that is later, right? Tzeitzek Chavim is Beinanim. So we wait till Tzeitzek Chavim Haktanim. The 3 stars come out, which means for sure that Tzeitzek Chavim, the Beinanim, came out, because it's already much darker, and even the Ktanim are coming out. The Gdolim could be by day, before Shkia. The Beinanim, that's the beginning of night. And the Ktanim come out later, so you wait for the Ktanim, and you know for sure the Beinanim came out. And that's why the Bein Hashmashas extends until then as a Safek. And that is arguments, and the arguments are justified because it's all relative. It's all about perspective.
It's all about 3/4 of a mil. How long that is?
Rabbi Yehuda gave it as 3/4 of a mil. Rabbi Yossi said it's Kairafayim, which is estimated as 2 minutes. Rabbi Nechemia said it's a Chatzi mil, and so forth. So usually we go to Rabbi Yehuda, we add Rabbi Yossi, and then there's all of the additions, every place according to its dimensions, its properties.
But
Yeah.
the truth is that on the eastern horizon,
Yes.
where basically the sun goes down,
Yes.
on the eastern, wait a second, sun comes up on the east,
Rises in the east and sets in the west.
And on the western horizon, actually, you're gonna see the stars much later. So the 3 stars on the western horizon will come much later.
Yes.
So on the eastern horizon, it comes much earlier.
Yes.
So it depends to where you look at.
That too. That too. Yeah.
So what is the math? There's a mathematical formula with different places. How do they figure that out?
Yeah.
What it says.
The mathematical formula
I mean, every place is said is different. So there's some sort of
for the northern hemisphere, there are 3 twilights: civil, which is still you see light, which is 6 degrees of sun below the horizon. 12 degrees is a nautical twilight, and then astronomical twilight, which is 18 degrees, which is exactly 70 minutes. In most minutes.
Now we come to the next step. If we look at this Gemara here, it should pose a challenge to the Shittas HaGoyinim. Why? The Gemara said that Oir apparently means day. And it's used in that way. It's not used as a euphemism for night. We want to say night, so instead of night, we say a nice word, Oir. But rather it means day, because the Beis says, Vayikra Elokim la'or yoim. So the Gemara rejects that and says, no. Who's forcing you to interpret it that way? La'or could be a verb, not a noun. The Rebbeinu Shalom called the process of the day becoming light day, meaning even before it's fully light, even before sunrise, after dawn breaks, we already call it Yom. As the pasuk said, the process of getting light is called day. So the Gemara says that there can't be. Why? Because then you have to explain the continuation of the pasuk the same way. Hashem called Choshech Laila doesn't mean darkness as a noun. The process, L'machshich uba kara laila, as it's getting dark is night. Meaning after sunset, as it's getting dark. Just like after dawn break, before sunrise is considered day, sunset, even before nightfall, is considered night. And that can't be, because we have a halacha that defines day as going till Tzeitzek Chavim, which means Machshich Uba is not Laila. So you can't interpret Bereshis that way, because if that's the meaning of Bereshis, the halacha wouldn't contradict how the Torah defines day and night. So we're back to square one, that Or means a noun. Or is called day, and night and darkness is called night. Choshech Kara Laila Or, which would be a problem, according to Rav Huna, that he interprets Or as day. So therefore the Gemara gives a completely different interpretation to the pasuk, that it could work together with Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that Or means night, because Vayikra is not a name. Vayikra is Hashem summoned the Bria of Chor, he summoned the Bria of Choshech, and he commanded them to take care of what we call day hours and night hours. So here, let's think about this. The Gemara rejects the notion that after sunset could be night, because Til Tzeitzek Chavim is Yemama. The Gemara rejects the process that after Shkia begins night. That's not true. That's not true. Whose shitta does this work so well with? Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam is the man who says, an hour after sunset, you don't even have to think about night. Or 58 and a half minutes, you're good. It's completely day. It's like before Shkia. He is that man. The Ga'onim, on the other hand, they actually hold L'machshech ba kar hilayla. They're the ones who say the moment Shkia happens, whoops, you got to fear that it's night. Night is here. They call it Ben Hashmoshes. L'cha'ira, this Gemarah is a gewaldige raya that after Shkia, the status of day did not change. Just like we said, L'meira ba kar hayoim, which we accepted. But L'machshech ba kar halayla, we did not accept. We said that wouldn't work. It's not true. It's not Laila. Atzei Segechavim is Yamama. The one that this works best with is Rabbeinu Tam, because according to Shittas HaGa'inim, L'machshech ba kar halayla. You could say L'choshech kar halayla. He called night to the process of it getting dark, because they hold that the moment the first sun sets, I say the first sun, the moment the sun sets, you already have to treat it as a Suffolk Laila. This is a question that Rabbi Chanan Wasserman asks in his Sefer Kovet Shiurim. Kovet Shiurim on Masechta Pesachim. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman was a student of Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, Reb Chaim Brisker, and then the Chafetz Chaim, a student of Chafetz Chaim. He was murdered in June, Tammuz Tovshin Aleph 1941, taken from the Kovna ghetto in Lithuania, and murdered with many Jews in the summer of 1941, Tovshin Aleph, by the Germans. And he was the Rosh Yeshiva of Baranovich, a yeshiva called Oyel Torah in Baranovich, in Lithuania, in the Lita. And Rabbi Chanan Wasserman and Hashem Yinkadim wrote a sefer called Kovet Shiurim on Pesachim. They're very well known svarim on Shas. On Pesachim, I saw he asks this question. The Gemarah is a strong raya to Rabbeinu Tam against the Shittas HaGa'inim. So Rabbi Chanan answers as follows. He says it's not the case. It's a good diuk, but it's not the case. Why? Because they don't say that from sunset is night. They say from sunset is Suffolk night. It's Ben Hashmoshes. As the Gemara defined in Shabbos, Ben Hashmoshes is Suffolk min hayoim, umin halayla, Suffolk kulei min hayoim, Suffolk kulei min halayla. Meaning there's three ways of looking at Ben Hashmoshes. One way is saying it's all day. You really don't have to worry. It's all day. Rabbeinu Tam doesn't have a suffix. He says it's completely day. But we're talking about like Shittas HaGa'inim. When Shkia happens, it may be fully day. You may have full day. And you're right. But I have another issue. It may be fully night. Night may begin then. Maybe yeah, maybe not. And then I have a third suffix. Suffix min hayoim umin halayla. Maybe it's half and half. Maybe 90% is day, 10% is night. Maybe 99% is day, and 1% is night. Maybe 1% is day, right? And 99% is night. I don't know. Maybe Yom and Laila starts 10 minutes in, 5 minutes in, 3 minutes in, or maybe it's all day. But the problem is I don't know. If the pasuk would say, Vayikra lekim lechoshech lachoshech kara laila, what does that mean? Lemachshichu ba kara laila. That the Rebbeinu Shalom gave that time the name night, he called it night. What's a suffix? What's a suffix? It's vaday. So therefore, even Ladas HaGa'inim, all they're saying is, after Shkia, take a deep breath and be cautious. They're not telling you after Shkia is Laila, and that's why Takala Halacha, Bein Hashmashas is not like Tzesek Echalim. Right? For example, if you didn't do a malach, if you didn't do something on Friday, it's no problem to tell a non-Jew on Bein Hashmashas, during Bein Hashmashas Friday evening, to do any malacha for you. Even though on Shabbos that is rabbinically prohibited, Amira L'Nochri Shvus. I can't tell a Gentile, put on the light, put on the fire. But I mean, there are some exceptions, but they're very rare and unique, despite common misconceptions. But nonetheless, during Bein Hashmashas, it's not a problem. Because Bein Hashmashas is not a vada, Bein Hashmashas is a suffix. So Mele Rebbe Chanan Tain is that if L'machshichu ba karei laila, if that was the pshat in the pasuk, then it would not work even like Shittas HaGa'inim. Emes, for sure, Rabbeinu Tam doesn't work, because he holds it's mamish day. You're right, great. But even Shittas HaGa'inim, it's not like this Gemara proves Rabbeinu Tam. When the Gemara rejects it, and the Gemara says, Til Tzesek Echavim is Yoim, it works even like Shittas HaGa'inim. They say, it's not Yoim, it's a Safek Laila because I'm not sure. But they also say it may be Yom. So you can't say Lamachshich or Bakare Laila because nobody believes that. Nobody holds that. They all hold it's Yom. The problem is, again, as Tosfos explains, we don't know exactly when that Tzeisak Echavim is. So when the Gemarah says, Til Tzeisak Echavim is Yom, those are interesting words. Because nobody really says Til Tzeisak Echavim is Yom, right? Everybody holds as a Ben Hashmashas. Even Rabbeinu Tam, he just starts as Ben Hashmashas much later. But nobody says Til Tzeisak Echavim is really Yom. So the truth is, Loi Tosfos, we understand that. Because Tosfos says, no, Til Tzeisak Echavim is Yom. We just don't know when Tzeisak Echavim is. Our problem with Ben Hashmashas is not that we say it's Laila before Tzeisak Echavim. Till Tzeisak Echavim is day, we just don't know when Tzeisak Echavim is. So when the Gemarah says at Tzeisak Echavim Yemamahu, it means literally it is Yom. We just don't know when that Tzeisak Echavim is. So that's why we make it earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. According to Rabbeinu Tam, we don't make it that early. According to the Goyim, we make it very early. Mamash right after Shkiyas Achama. But the point is, it's still a suffix. We don't know what Tzeisak Echavim is. And we say, we can't say Lamachshich Uba Koroi Laila. That the process of Machshich Uba is absolutely not. So even though the Gemara says Til Tzeisak Echavim is Yom, we would have to interpret it doesn't mean literally. We consider it Yom. We consider it suffix Laila Ben Hashmashas, but we still call it Yemamahu because it's still a suffix Yom and a suffix Laila. I just want to add one detail, and that is when the Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos, there's 3 doubts. If you have the Gemara, you can take a look. The 4th line, the Flamedal and Beis. Tanu Rabbana, Ben Hashmashas, Safek Min Hayom Min Halayla, Safek Kuli Min Hayom, Safek Kuli Min Halayla. You would think, what are these 3 doubts? They all seem the same. The 4th line from the top, Flamedal and Beis. You would think like this. The first suffix is, it has day and night together, meaning half day, half night, or part day, part night. Second doubt is, it's all day. Third doubt is, it's all night. In other words, we're not sure about that period of time, how to judge it, right? That's one way of looking at it. So how do you touch suffix min hayom or min halayla? Suffix min hayom min halayla means it's a suffix that it's comprised of day and night. How can it be comprised of day and night? Well, you could say 13 and a half minutes. Half could be day, half could be night. 5% day, 5% night, as we said earlier. There is another interpretation of this Gemara, a very interesting interpretation. And this is an interpretation from the Jacobson. The Tzafnas Paneach, Rabbeinu Yosef Rosen, the way he interprets this Gemara, and really it's already in one of the Rishonim, the Ritva says this in Maseches Yuma, and the Maharal also gives this interpretation, is Safek Min Hayom Min Halayla means that Ben Hashmashas actually has a different suffix. It's a suffix Min Hayom and Min Halayla together. That every minute of Ben Hashmashas is comprised of 2 opposed entities, the entity of day and the entity of night. Meaning, one suffix is that Ben Hashmashas is fully night. Another suffix is Ben Hashmashas is fully day, which would also include part day, part night. That would be just an extension of the first 2 sveikas. But then there's another type of suffix. Perhaps there's a metzias called Ben Hashmashas, which is min hayom or min halayla biyachat. That's what the Gemara means. Min hayom min halayla means not part day, part night. The whole Ben Hashmashas is something that's made up. If it's a synthesis, it's like an androgynous, the Rakachava says. You know, an androgynous. It's a new type of metzias that's zocher and a keva together. It has a halacha. So or the Gemara speaks about a koi, a certain type of koi. It's a chay or a behem, or not a chay or not a behem, or a new type of entity. Some say it's a buffalo. Yeah, it's where the 2 become synthesized and integrated. So it has both day, every nekuda of it has a geder of Yom and a geder of Laila, which according to this he explains a very strange Mishnah. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, the 5th chapter, Asara dvarim nivru be'erev Shabbos ben hashmashas. 10 things Hashem created erev Shabbos during twilight. Now one second. Ben Hashmashas, according to everything we explained, is only a problem for us, not for God. He doesn't know when Tzeisak Echavim is. What type of Ben Hashmashas is there for the Rebbeinu Shalom? It's your stars. You figure out when Tzeisak Echavim is. I understand. I don't know if it's Doilim, Ktanim, Beinim. I get migraine headaches. I look at the stars. I don't know if I'm coming or going. If it's day or night. Fuck. I say Ben Hashmashas. But if anybody knows how this cosmos works and how astronomy works, you should know it. You're the creator. You're the one who made Eir and Cheshvan, Chavim, Shabbat. What's the Ben Hashmashas? Where's the Ben Hashmashas? You could say he created Erev Shabbos before Shabbos. Chazal say, Rashi brings that Nichnas Kechut HaSayra, He stopped mamash a second before. What's this idea of bein hashmoshes? What makes it bein hashmoshes? Bein hashmoshes seems like an inyan of suffix. So the Rebbe explains that that's not pshat. There's a new suffix in bein hashmoshes, that it's not a gather of suffix. It's a gather of vadai. That there's a time that's not day and not night because it's both day and night. That's the problem. That's why you can't work then. Not because we have a suffix, we don't have a suffix. Because there's an aspect that's night. Because there's a real thing that's part of night. And the other way, Mitzvah Shabbos, you can't start doing malacha yet because there's an aspect that's day. I don't have a suffix. Hashem knows bein hashmoshes, but there's a third dimension of bein hashmoshes, that there's an entity of time, and that entity of time has both components of Yom and Laila together. And our only problem is we don't even know when that time is. We don't know when that entity of time bein hashmoshes is. That itself is a question. If that's the entire time of bein hashmoshes, or it's in the middle of that bein hashmoshes, and the rest could be Yom and Laila, that's just one of the. That's why it's one of the doubts. We don't know when that time of bein hashmoshes. But if we would know when that time of bein hashmoshes is, and there would be a mitzvah that you have to do by day, you could do it. If there was a mitzvah you have to do at night, you could do it. If there was a mitzvah that day disqualifies or night disqualifies, then you can't do it. But if it's a mitzvah that needs day and is not disqualified by night, the Rosh goes through a whole chikira that there's some mitzvahs that when it says to do it by day, it's not that you need the day, it's that the night disqualifies it. Mitzvahs at night that the day disqualifies. But there's some mitzvahs, it's not the night or the day disqualifies. It's just you need day. This type of bein hashmoshes, you would be able to do those mitzvahs if you would know the time, because it has Yom and it has Laila. The only problem is it also has the other one. So if the other one disqualifies it, then you wouldn't be able to do it. Which would explain why the things that were created Erev Shabbos bein hashmoshes are all unique types of things, right? Bilam's, the mouth of Bilam's donkey. The mouth of Bilam's donkey. What else is it? The ram of Avram Avinu, Haksav, Hamichtav, the Luchas, Tzvas b'tzvas Hasuya, what? The tongues, yeah, Tzvas b'tzvas, Yasharim Hazikin, all in Yonim that don't mamish fit into the regular structure of the universe, because the power to combine day and night comes from a place that transcends both. The ability to synthesize two opposites means you have to transcend both in order to synthesize them. A translator from a French book to an English book, or from Hebrew to English, or from Russian to Hebrew, whatever it is, he has to have a better Russian and a better Hebrew. He has to have, in order to be able to be a good translation, you have to know both languages, but you also have to be proficient in both languages, better even than the original writer, to be able to create that transition. You have a psychologist for children. You have a psychologist for adults. Right? Somebody who's a psychologist for adolescents, for teenagers, where they're both children and adults, has to know more than both psychologists. In order to be able to master paradoxes, you have to transcend both of them. So all the things that were created bein hashmoshes are l'mayla min hateva. They don't fit into nature, because bein hashmoshes is rooted in a place. The transition from light to darkness or is a very, very profound one. And that memutza, that intermediary, must have both. The translator has to know the original language, has to know the second language, and then has to know how to synthesize them and combine them. If that's pshat, so then there's it's a whole deeper geschmack in at tzeisa kechavim yemamahu. Till tzeisa kechavim is yemama. Because it's taka yoyim. If you learn bein hashmoshes like this, then at tzeisa kechavim is taka yemama. Even though it's not yemama, it's not really yemama, because we treat it like Laila, so I explained. It's taka yemama. According to this Gedder of bein hashmoshes, you can't say lemachshichu bakare Laila. That's not the Gedder of bein hashmoshes. Eina chenami, we don't treat it anymore as yoim. But it's an inyan of yemama, because it has yoim. Bein hashmoshes is mamish yoim. It's also Laila. It's also Laila. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it's yom fakert. It has an element of Yom that's deeper than anything else. Generally, all transitions in life are very complicated. They're very nebulous. They're not easy. Transitions, there's comfort zones and there's transitions. Bein hashmoshes is not a comfort zone. Bein hashmoshes is shakalt sich. And in order to go through those moments, you have to have extra confidence. You know, it's easy to live in your comfort zone. I don't mean this to make this so psychological, but I am. It's easy to live in your it's easy. Some people are good at by day. Some people are good at night. You know, some people are good in darkness. Some people are good in brightness. Some people enjoy darkness. Some people enjoy light. Bein hashmoshes is where the challenge is. Is it Safek Yom, Safek Laila, or really Safek Min HaYom Min HaLaila? So it's mamtik, the whole inyan, why the Gemara says with Hazan, Pshishtas, At Seisek Echavim Yemamu, even though the Gemara is not arguing with the Metzias of Bein Hashmoshes, that all the Chazal embrace. Nobody says, this Gemara doesn't say there's no Metzias of Ben Hashmashas. And yet the Gemara rejects the idea that from Shkia is called Laila. It's completely not called Laila. So it's not only Mitzat Safik, it's also, as we explained, like this Havana, because it's Taka a Geder of Yar.
There's a separation.
Of course there's a separation, but that's the idea of Ben Hashmashas, that there may be an entity, which we can't identify exactly, which has both components, and that's when these things were created. So even for Hashem, it's called Ben Hashmashas. Not because he doesn't know when Tzesek Kachavim. From Tosfos, the whole part is you don't know when Tzesek Kachavim is. Fine. You're clueless. If you would know, if we would be Rabbi Yehuda knew what the Bein in him were, he didn't have a problem. Before that he had a problem, because it was a suffix, we have to extend, etc. But if you would know, if you would mamish know, you wouldn't have an issue. We just don't know, because it's Bein in him, so it's very hard to estimate. According to this, it has to do with a deeper component of Ben Hashmashas.
Why is it called day? I don't understand. It's a new entity, so what have you say Vadai day?
No, because we want to say Lamachshich, we're trying to negate. Lamachshich Bakari Laila. We're trying to negate the idea that it's called Laila. The Gemara says, Atzes HaKachavim as a Geder of Yain. So we're asking Aitzan Inyan of Ben Hashmashas. That was the Kovetz Shiurim's question. It's a big support for Rabbeinu Tam, right? That it's not called Choshech. So he answered rightfully, because it's still Suffolk, right? It's still Suffolk Yaim, it's not Kari Laila. I'm just adding one word, that Atzes HaKachavim Yamamuhu, that it's Taka an Inyan of Yaim. It's Taka a Geder of Yaim. Even though it's also a Geder of Laila, but you can't say Lamachshichu ba Kari Laila. In the morning he called day, and this he called night. What do you mean he called it night when it has an element of day also? How can you say that? There's something wrong, and that's why you can't touch the pasuk that way, and that's why the Gemara touches the pasuk very differently.
For this Avoni, you can put on tefillin on that matter like a tefillin. Because it's matter.
You could do both.
You can do both of them.
Well, that depends, again, if it's a type of mitzvah that requires day or night, or it's a type of mitzvah that gets puzzled by the chalois of Laila. If Laila is a psul, then you wouldn't be able to do it then. Right? If you just need yoim, but Laila is not a psul, then it would work. I mean, Lepoil, it's theoretical because we don't know when the time is.
According to the item, weren't they hold their by time? You know, it's still day. You say it still see light.
I'll tell you what.
So sure.
They don't have to be machmir Rabbeinu Tam, even l'shittas hagaonim, because if they hold the first shkia is a different shkia, so Rabbi Yehuda just tells us you have to wait shloisha chelkei mil. So Mela, even if you can extend it more and more, they hold that the first shkia happened already. If the first shkia happened, you're right. Taka in the north, up north, Rabbeinu Tam made sense for many generations. The reason it made sense for many generations is because Taka took much more time. They went out after sunset, 13 and a half minutes, no stars. 18 minutes, no stars. 19 minutes, no stars. I mean, you'll have the stars that you could see during the day, but you're not going to see stars. So that's where Rabbeinu Tam's Shitta, we understand, took root, because it took much longer. When it got dark, suddenly you see stars. You look 72 minutes after Shki, you're going to see stars. You'll see your Tzesek Kachavim. You will see your stars. Rabbeinu Tam says that's your Tzesek Kachavim. It made a lot of sense. But like Shittas HaGa'inim with the Shkia is much earlier, so they didn't have to extend it so much. Even l'chumra is that the Tzesek Kachavim of Rabbi Yehuda we have to extend, but not so long. Okay, I think we can go another 15 minutes, yeah? Since we started late, huh? Okay, so we'll go to line 45, okay? So let's now continue here. Actually, this is very appropriate now. We're holding the Beis at Beis 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lines from the bottom. The Beis at Beis, Meisva. So let's recall, this entire Gemara is trying to explore the meaning of Ur Larbasa. Rabbi Yehuda says it means night. Rabbi Huna said it means day. And the Gemara understood l'chatchila that Rabbi Huna literally means you have to be by the chametz on the day of Arba Asar. He was very explicit. The Mishnah says Ur, Rabbi Huna says, don't make a mistake. Ur means day. You have to do b'dikas chametz in the morning. Rabbi Yehuda said absolutely not. The Mishnah means night. And the entire sugya is trying to either embrace or reject Rabbi Huna and Rabbi Yehuda by bringing proofs, both from the Tanakh and from Mishnayos and Braisos, how the term Ur is used throughout. And the Gemara here, without a concordancia and before Google, lahavdil, brings out every time it says Ur in the Tanakh, in a context that we can use it here to either prove or disprove one of the two shittas. The Gemara continues now. Meisva, they asked the question: Ein masiyin masois ela ala chodesh shenira bismanoi lekatsha. The new question is that we have a brisa that says you don't kindle torches. Masuyas are torches. You don't kindle torches only on a month when the moon appeared on time in order to sanctify it. I'll explain in a moment. And when do you light these torches? And the answer the Brisa gives is, which is the key words here, la'oir iburei, at the oir of its ibur, which Alma, this shows us, oir urtahu, oir means night, rejecting Reb Huna and supporting Rav Yehuda. What does the Brisa say? The Brisa needs a little historical introduction and context. We know that for many generations, including in the time of the Mishnah and the earlier time of the Gemara, the way Rosh Chodesh was established was not through a calendar. In fact, you never knew when the next month is going to fall out. There was no such a thing sending out a bar mitzvah invitation, a wedding invitation, and saying the wedding is going to be on Monday, Zayin Kislev, or Tuesday, Ches Kislev. You know why? Your guests would show up the wrong day, perhaps. There was no such a thing as sending out a calendar, sending out an invitation with days. Every month, you had to figure it out anew. Because, as we know, Rosh Chodesh, there's a challenge with Rosh Chodesh. The challenge is, not to get too astronomical, the orbit of the moon is complicated. It circles the earth, the moon circles the earth, and it finishes its orbit after 29 days and 12 hours and change. Chav Tes Yud Beis and Tofshin Tzad Gimel Chalakim, as we learned in Masechta Rosh Hashanah at length. And therefore, Rosh Chodesh is, of course, the new month. What do we mean the new month? The word Chodesh comes from the word Chiddush. It's when the moon is reborn. What that means is, when the moon appears for the first time, after the moon is in conjunction with the sun and the earth, and therefore it's blocked, we can't see the moon, because the entire half of the moon that we see is facing the sun, and therefore from our perspective, we see a dark moon. When the moon moves a little bit away from that, and you could see it, the witnesses who observed it, that's called Rosh Chodesh. And the way it would happen was, the orbit of the moon is 29 and a half days, so after 29 and a half days, the moon finishes its orbit. It meets the sun, and you can't see it then. But then it moves away a little bit, and it starts moving away from the sun. You could start seeing the moon. When witnesses saw the moon, they right away, 2 of them came to Beis Din in Yerushalayim, or wherever the Supreme Court was. They testified, and they made Rosh Chodesh. That's how it was. As a result of this, when did you see the moon? Because the moon finishes its orbit after 29 and a half days. So therefore, the Eidus would see it at what point? If 29 days passed from last month, that's Rosh Chodesh, 29 days. So sometimes 29 days, the night, the middle of the night, the beginning of the night, later, early morning, they could see the moon. If they could see the moon, they could come to Beis Din the next day, and Beis Din will make that day Rosh Chodesh, and that means the month had 29 days, and day 30 became Aleph. What happens if witnesses didn't see the moon? Because the moon didn't show up yet, or because it was cloudy, or for whatever reason they didn't see the moon. So day 30 could not become Rosh Chodesh because there was no testimony, there was no Beis Din. Day 30 by default fell back to the previous month. This was called a Chodesh Ma'uber, which means a pregnant month. Why is it called a pregnant month? Because pregnancy means you have an addition inside of you, like a baby. And a pregnant month means that this month has an extra day to it. Or a Shana Mu'aberes is a leap year because it's a pregnant year, like this year. There's a second other. The year is pregnant with an additional month, or the month is pregnant with an additional day. So if the witnesses would come on day 30, they could make Rosh Chodesh day 30, and therefore the month will have 29 and 30 will become 1. If there's no witnesses on day 30, automatically day 31 becomes Rosh Chodesh. And what happens? Day 30 is the last month, and that's called a Chodesh Me'uber, or a Chodesh Malay, a pregnant month or a full month. In our calendar today, what we do is, since Rosh Chodesh would be after 29 and a half days, because that's when the orbit finishes, but you can't make Rosh Chodesh a half a day. The Torah says Rosh Chodesh has to be a full day, so we have a problem. Because 29 and a half days, you can't make Rosh Chodesh for 12 hours. Rosh Chodesh has to be for 24 hours, so when do you do it? If you make day 29 Rosh Chodesh, right? It didn't finish its orbit. Yeah. If you make day 30 Rosh Chodesh, it's too late already. So what do? So we do 6 months. Rosh Chodesh is, the month has 29 days, and Rosh Chodesh starts right after, and 6 months, so it starts right after 29, even though the orbit didn't finish, because you have to wait 12 hours, we right away start Rosh Chodesh, and 6 months, we have a month of 30 days, and Rosh Chodesh only starts the next day, which is really day 31. In other words, Rosh Chodesh starts late. 1 month it starts early, 1 month it starts late, but in that process it equals it out. Yeah, and that's the consistency of our calendar. 5 and 5. The only thing that remains is Cheshvan and Kislev. Cheshvan and Kislev is a problem because it's not mamish 12 hours. I mean, mamish 12 hours would be perfect. It's not mamish. So Cheshvan and Kislev can either be 30 days or it could be 29 days, depends on the year. Like this year, Cheshvan, as we know, is 30 days, and Rosh Chodesh Kislev, therefore, is 2 days. Today you have a calendar. How did they notify everybody when Rosh Chodesh was? So they used to light torches on the mountains. And one mountain would light the torches in Yerushalayim, and then the next mountain would get the cue, and they would light it all the way till Iraq. So Jews living as far as Iraq and Bavel would know when Rosh Chodesh was. That's what the Mishnah is saying. If witnesses didn't come, and Rosh Chodesh wasn't made till the next day, day 31, they wouldn't light torches. And when you would see there's no torches, you knew that Rosh Chodesh was an extra day. Now this was very, very important, because this meant when Pesach is, Sukkot is, Yom Kippur is, everything was based on this. So these torches were critical. So that's what the Beis is saying. You don't light torches only on a month when the moon appeared in its time. What's pshat in its time? If it appears late, it's not in the right time. The moon appears when it appears. But bismane would mean the initial time, which is day 30. L'katshay, to sanctify it. Because at day 31, they didn't sanctify it according to most opinions. It just became Rosh Chodesh by default. When do you light the torches? By oiri bure. Alma oir urtuhu. So Rashi says, what does Rashi say? Ei masiyah masuyas. Avukais berashi harim. Hayushluchi bezdin oisin loidia shayem kitchu bezdin es achodesh. Ela ala chodesh nira bezmane lekatshay. B'yom shloishim shenira lekadesh. The iluk shachodesh meuber. V'oisin resh chodesh b'yom shloishim ve'echad. Ein mekatshin oiseh. Shekwa kitchu shamayim. If Rosh Chodesh is delayed, Bezdin doesn't sanctify it. Heaven already sanctified it. Bashmin and Haitana, our Tana tells us that achaser avdinan masuis. You only light torches if the month is missing a day, meaning if it's 29 days. Va'amalei, on a full month, loy avdinan masuis. Kshein roya masuis yoyin shachodesh muber. When they didn't see torches, they know automatically that Rosh Chodesh was a day later, and that means Pesach is a day later. So if I'm sitting in my house in Iraq, in Bavel, wherever I live, and it's nighttime, and everyone says, "Oh, there's torches on the mountain." So what do I know? I know that Rosh Chodesh happened that day, and tonight, when I'm seeing the torches, is already Beis. I'm already on the second day of the month, because Rosh Chodesh already happened the day before. It's not day 30, it's day 1. Of course, if I don't see torches, I say, oh, today was day 30, tonight is day 1, and therefore, of course, Pesach is going to be a day later, Yom Kippur will be a day later, because tonight is not 2, tonight is 1. That's how critical it was. As you probably know, this all changed. In the middle of the second, towards the end of the second Beis HaMikdash, there were the Tzedukim who wanted to fool Klal Yisrael, and they would light torches on the wrong night just to create a ruckus, and nobody could stop it. Nobody could stop it, so they changed it all, and they started to send shluchim, emissaries, out to the towns, which created a major problem, because it took 10 days or 15 days to get there. A torch, you light a torch, you see the torch mountain to mountain to mountain to mountain. In Rosh Hashanah, we go through all the mountains, all the way till Iraq. It was pretty easy. Took a few hours, and everybody knew. With shluchim, they have to travel. One shaila is why they didn't text. That's a good shaila, but for whatever reason, they didn't use text at the moment. At the time, or WhatsApp, they had to send shluchim, and that's when the whole Yom Tov Sheni crisis began, meaning many Jews had to celebrate 2 days of Yom Tov, because their shluchim didn't come, the torches they didn't see, and they didn't know when Pesach is, when Sukkot is, when Yom Kippur is, and other Yom Tovim, and therefore everything became 2 days, because you don't know. You don't know if today is Pesach, or you don't know if tomorrow is Pesach. If Rosh Chodesh was a day early, then today is Pesach. If Rosh Chodesh was a day late, today is Erev Pesach, and tomorrow is Pesach, so we do everything 2 days. Rosh Hashanah 2 days, Yom Kippur, thank God not. That's possibly because Pikuach Nefesh. In other words, to listen to the Chazan twice and to the sermon 2 days, everybody would die, not only once but twice. So Yom Kippur, they're like, okay, we're not going to deal with it. Plus, fasting is hard for some people for 2 days. But all the other time became 2 days because they were mavatal this. But this Beis is talking about at the time when they did torches, and therefore they used to do the torches lo'ori bures, Akrashi, al la'ori buray leil sha'avar shloishim loidir shayem niskadish. They did it in the night after 30 to tell them that the date was Rosh Chodesh. In other words, they missed Rosh Chodesh. They didn't know Rosh Chodesh. But the main thing is in Yerushalayim they know. Leil shloishim ve'echad. There's different Yersayas here, but let's go. Leil shloishim ve'echad, the night of 31, or the guys, Maseres Hashas's guidance. Yom shloishim kari iburoi al shem sheboy nasa chodesh me'uber kshen kavim bayis Rosh Chodesh. Yom shloishim is always called Yom ha'ibur, the pregnant day. Why? Because that is the day that is added to the month if it doesn't become Rosh Chodesh. That's called. So when it says lo'oir iburoi, what does it mean? Oiri buray, alma oirurtu. Zakrashi, how do you know? Because by day, nobody's going to see torches far. I mean, if you're near a mountain, you'll see a torch of fire by day. But the whole point was, it should travel miles and miles and miles. By nighttime, a person lights a torch on a mountain, everybody sees in certain proximity, certain distance. If you're going to do it by day, it's going to be ineffective. So when it says la'oiri buray, what does oir mean? Or doesn't mean the day of the Ibor. Or means the night of the Ibor. Now you can't even say Oir Ibor maybe means Alois HaShachar. By Alois Oir means Alois HaShachar, dawn break. It's still pretty dark. Maybe that's when they lit the torches. How does the Gemara know Oir means night? Maybe Oir means the early morning. Alois HaShachar is Oir. Like we learned before about doing Malach Erev Pesach Mishas HaOir. You could say it's Alois HaShachar. Maybe it means that. What do you think? How does the Gemara prove it's night? Maybe Ur means Alois HaShachar. Was Oxtum?
Sleeping.
Huh?
Sleeping there.
For us, Alois HaShachar is sleeping time. For them, Alois HaShachar, no sleeping time. You need a few hours for the torches to travel. By the time you wait a few hours, nobody's going to see your torches anymore. By night, you have a whole night. You have a whole night. Well, the kids lit firecrackers. So it went Lebedik. It became Lebedik. It was a Lebedik night. Everybody was excited. No yeshiva the next day, and everybody was lighting everything. So in Mela we see Urtu. Also, well, of course, Sofik Rosh Chodesh. I would also add what you said that some Sofer says. I think I would also add to tell them to do it by Alois HaShachar wouldn't be a good strategy. What if the witnesses come in the middle of the day? What if the witnesses come 11 o'clock? So nobody's going to know anymore. You do it the night after, you're always good, right? Because witnesses can come a whole day. So what if witnesses come 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock? So you didn't do torches, right? If your policy is to do it in the morning, we would have a problem because unless you would have to do the morning of 31, but that's not Iburah. So Mela, what's La'oir Iburah? It has to be night. The night after 30. Alma oir urtuhu shma mina. Das is a gute raya. Then the Gemara says, Meisve. Weiter question. The question is, the Beis says, Hoya oimet kol halaylo makriv al hamizbeach. A kohen was up all night offering sacrifices on the altar. La'oira ton kiddush yadayim v'raglayim. What is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is, a carbon you can only bring by day. B'yoyim tzavoisei, the pasuk says. It had to be by day. But what has to be by day? Slaughtering the animal, sprinkling the blood, all has to be by day. Before nightfall, before evening, before sunset, before Ben Hashmoshes. Right? That has to be by day. You bring a carbon mincha, any carbon has to be by day. But what about the burning of the actual flesh or fat of the carbon on the Mizbeach? That could be a whole night. Like we say in Parshas Tzav. It could burn a whole night. And the kohen could put it on the fire. Sometimes you had Yom Tif, you had other times, the Mizbeach was full, you had thousands of karbonas. It was impossible to get everything consumed and turned into ashes during the day hours. So this the Torah allowed to do a whole night. So if you had a kohen, and a whole night he was being makrif. Now comes morning. And the halacha is that a kohen, before he starts the avodah, every morning when they come to this Medrash, they had to sanctify their hands and their feet. They had a kiyar, a washing basin, and they had to put their hands and feet under it and wash them and cleanse them before they can go into the Beis HaMikdash. This was a chiyuv and a strong penalty without it. What happens if you were there a whole night and you were there and morning comes and you want to continue the avodah? The new avodah, the new day. There's a new day's avodah, carbon tamid, the k'tayres, the menorah, whatever it is you're doing. Do you have to do Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim? So the Beis says, La'oira ton Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim. Rashi, the Kasaba Rabbi, Lina Poiselas B'Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim. staying over the night, even though you didn't go to sleep and you didn't leave the Beis HaMikdash, you have to do a time of Mefarish B'Zvachim. Divrei Rabbi, this is the Shitta of Rabbi. What do we see from here? What's La'oira? La'oira means at night, or La'oira means by day? He says that he was standing all night. La'oira. What does La'oira mean? The next night he needs Kinshin. Obviously, it means La'oira in the day. And for the Gemara, Oira shiny. Oira is different. Meaning, Zakrashi, Heicha the Tani Oira, like Polig Rabbi Yehuda do Lashon Yoim. Where it says the word Oira, Rabbi Yehuda also holds that it means day. In other words, Oira, Rabbi Yehuda says is night. It's a euphemism for night. Here we see clearly in the Brisa, it's day. Rabbi Yehuda holds that the word Oira is different than Oira. Obviously, Oira means light, like Yehuda Moisa Oira. Oira also means light. So Oira, he says, is used as a euphemism for night. But Oira, you go back to the regular translation of Oira, which is Lichtigkeit, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda says that it means day, and therefore there's no contradiction to Rabbi Yehuda from this Brisa. What's your question? The Rogachover? The source? The Rogachover says this many, many times. There's a sefer called Mefaneach Tzvunas by Rav Kasher. Yes, and over there he creates a compilation of the main ideas of the Rogachover. So there's a whole section there on Bein Hashmashos, how the Rogachover understands Bein Hashmashos. Right, so what's the problem? Oh, you mean why the three doubts? Well, it seems like, according to his interpretation, that all three components exist, meaning there are like almost three Bein Hashmashos. Let's put it that way. Right. There's a Bein Hashmashos that is all day. It's really day. In other words, even after sunset, there's a time that's day. There's a Bein Hashmashos that's all night. Even before Tzeisak Echavim, our Tzeisak Echavim, what we call Tzeisak Echavim, it's already night. But then there's a third Bein Hashmashos. A Bein Hashmashos in between, that is the synthesis, it's the integration of Yom and Laila together, where the two merge into a completely new entity, which must come from a place that transcends both, and therefore it could unify opposites, because day and night are opposites. Light and darkness are diametrically opposed. We see here how much the Gemara struggles if it's night or day or night or light or dark or they're two opposites. They're so different. And we know daytime and nighttime are the two polar opposites. Yotzer Oyer v'Cheshach. So the fact that there could be a time in which both are integrated and become one, to the point that yesh by min hayom or min halayla, according to the Ritva and the Rogachover and the Maharal and others who say that it's both, this is a middle time. So that would mean that there are three Bein Hashmashos. There's a Bein Hashmashos that's all day, there's a Bein Hashmashos that's all night, there's a Bein Hashmashos that is day and night together. There's only one problem. We don't know when it begins, when it ends. That's the problem. So we treat from Shkia till Tzeisak Echavim, we treat it as Safek Yom, Safek Laila. But what we're learning here is that there's a concept of Bein Hashmashos that is Yom. Right, it's Yom. There's a concept of Bein Hashmashos that's Yom. That's what it seems to me. Yeah, perhaps you could say that as well. Rabbeinu Tam? Rabbeinu Tam holds that after Shkia is still day. By a bris, yes, that would be a very important consequence. And that would be a very interesting question. That's a good quiz, yes. Let's think about it for a moment. If a baby is born on Friday, the bris is on Friday, right? The 8th day. If a baby is born on Shabbos, the bris is next Shabbos because it's the 8th day. And you could do a bris even on Shabbos as long as you're doing the bris on time. Yes, the Chazal learn now that a circumcision overrides Shabbos, even though it involves violation of Shabbos, but you could do a bris on Shabbos if it's the 8th day. What happens if a Jewish boy is born Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos, Friday at twilight? Let's say 10 minutes after sunset. What's the halacha? You can't give the bris on Friday. You know why? Because it may be night already. So the baby was born on Shabbos. If you give the bris on Friday, you're giving the bris on the 7th day. You're not allowed to. Could you make the bris on Shabbos? No. Because if the baby was born on Friday, then Shabbos is the 9th day. And you're not allowed to do a bris on Shabbos if it's not the 8th day. And again, the baby was born 10 minutes after sunset. So it could be it's Shabbos, then you could do it on Shabbos. But it could be it was Friday. If it was Friday, remember, it's Safek Yom, Safek Laila. So it could be it was Friday. If it was Friday, you can't do the bris on Shabbos. So when do you do the bris? You do the bris on Sunday. You do the bris on potentially the 10th day. You can't do it on Friday, because it may be the 7th. Can't do it on Shabbos, because it may be the 9th. So when do you do it? You do it on Sunday, which may be the 10th day since birth. Because the baby was born on Friday. Friday is 8, Shabbos is 9, Sunday is 10. Right? That would be according to the Shittas HaGoinim. But according to Rabbeinu Tam, where Bein Hashmashas only begins much later after sunset, around 58 or 60 minutes after sunset, almost a full hour after Shkia. So a baby who's born Friday, 10 minutes after Shkia, when do you do the bris? You do the bris on Friday, because that's the 8th day. You do the bris on Friday. So now here's an interesting reality, okay? You have 2 children. They're both born in Monsey, okay? One is born 5 minutes after Shkia. One is born 10 minutes after Shkia. Okay? One is born 5 minutes after Shkia. One is born 10 minutes after Shkia. The first baby is born into a family that follows the Shittas HaGoinim, right? The Shitta of the Vilna Gaon. The Shitta that the Mishnah Berurah says to be Machmir. The Balatanya in his Siddur. That Shitta. The Shittas HaGoinim, yeah. The second boy, who's born later, is in a family that follows Shittas Rabbeinu Tam, the Hungarians and certain Polish communities who followed Shittas Rabbeinu Tam completely. Now, what's the halacha? What's the halacha? The boy who was born later, he has a bris on Friday because they follow Rabbeinu Tam, and this boy was born on Friday because it was only 10 minutes after Shkia. So the boy has a bris on Friday. The boy who was born earlier, when is his bris? His bris is 2 days later, on Sunday. Because according to Shittas HaGoinim, it's Bein Hashmashas. So that would be a very interesting ramification. Yes, according to Rabbeinu Tam, you could do work for an hour. The bottom line is that in America and many other places, even those communities who follow Rabbeinu Tam, like Satmar Hasidim and other Hasidim, Belzer Hasidim, there were many of the Hungarian communities, Galicianas, many of the Polish communities who follow Rabbeinu Tam. Nonetheless, usually they do it only for stringency, not for leniency, at least publicly. So, for example, Friday, you will not see them doing, driving around half an hour after Shabbos, a half an hour after sunset. You won't see them driving around the car. Privately is a different story, but publicly, they will conform to the conventional Shabbos according to Shittas HaGoinim. Yeah.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.